You've been lied to about success. The entire manifestation space, the law of attraction, the idea that you have to think positive and money will flow to you, it's nonsense. You've been doing it for years and nothing's changed. If your income hasn't changed, if you've been struggling to make money, if you feel like no matter how hard you try, success keeps slipping through your fingers, there's a reason for that. And it's not because you're not thinking positive enough. It's because you're ignoring one of the most powerful forces inside of you, your dark side. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how to use what I call shadow fuel. It's the quote unquote negative emotions, the anger, the frustration, even the jealousy, to make more money and build real financial freedom. This isn't about ignoring the negative thoughts in your head, because that's actually a waste of time and energy. This is about flipping them into one of your greatest weapons for success. I know this because I lived it. A few years ago, I was broke, sleeping in a basement, overdrafted in my bank account, in debt, looking at successful people and feeling like the universe had left me behind. And when I first started learning about the laws of the universe, things changed a bit, and then they stopped changing. Why? Because I was denying one of the most crucial aspects of myself that allows not just me, but many others to create a new reality. I had to learn the hard way that success isn't just about positive energy. It's about transmutation. It's about transforming who you are, every part of yourself, including the darkness. It is about emotional alchemy. And this is not like anything you've heard before in the manifestation space or the spiritual space or the reality creation space, because they fail to acknowledge a very important part of you, which is real, your individual psychological traits. If you've been struggling with money and every time you try to think positive, it just feels fake, I want you to try something different. Lean into the shadow. And as Carl Jung said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Let's get into it.
Ooh, I really like that one.
It's a good intro, huh?
Yeah.
Y'all better pay attention. This is a serious video right now that you're not going to hear from other people. So before I get into how to utilize shadow fuel, I need you to understand psychology a little bit. So there are 5 major psychological traits. Research has been done on these extensively, and everyone has a different ratio of these traits. What the manifestation space and all these other spiritual sort of niches don't talk about or take into consideration is your specific psychological makeup. So there are 5 traits. They are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Everyone has a different distribution of these traits. Most people who get attracted to manifestation or esoteric knowledge are high in trait openness, which means you're open to new experiences. You're open to saying, maybe the world doesn't operate like that. Maybe there's something different out there. Maybe there's some kind of extraterrestrial trying to communicate with me over at Pluto or wherever you people talk to those things. But the major trait I'm going to be talking about is neuroticism. Now listen, no one else is telling you this because most of the leaders in the manifestation space are either naturally low in neuroticism or they just regurgitate what they've heard without questioning it. But science tells us something a little different. Why does science matter at all with this? Because of 3 of the laws that govern the universe: mentalism, correspondence, and polarity. There's actually 7 laws, but I'm going to talk about these 3 right now. You need to understand that the universe is mental. The all is mind. You live the reality you currently live because of the way you think and the way your mind is structured. The most enlightened aspect of the universe is called the all, or God, or Allah, or the universe, whatever you believe is the initial creation force of the universe. Then you have correspondence. We live in a physical, mental, and spiritual world. The higher you move up the planes of existence from physical to spiritual, the faster manifestation occurs. This is why you can imagine being on a vacation in your mind right now. The mental plane can manifest something very fast because it is closer in vibratory speed to the all. And thirdly, you also need to understand polarity. In the mind and in reality, we have negative and positive. We have light and dark. We have hot and cold. It's easy to understand. But the all, God, is the perfect synthesis of all these things, which means it synthesizes negative and positive together at the same time. And that also means it combines science and religion at the same time. It combines logic and delusion at the same time. There are too many people in the manifestation space that will tell you to abandon logic. when your God energy has the maximum levels of logic, but also the maximum levels of creativity and delusion. The more you move in the energy of the all, which is inside of you, which is your God energy, the more easily you can and will change reality. Which means the more things you combine, which seem opposite, the more you can easily manifest. An atom has a negative ion and a positive ion. When you smash these ions together, you get gamma rays, which are light. You become more enlightened when you combine opposites.
And I'm just saying, you just explained the process of an egg being fertilized. And the Big Bang Theory. There we go.
Yes. Yeah. So you guys can't be abandoning logic, okay? Because all that happens when you're imagining something that isn't yet in reality or something that people would consider delusional, the only thing you're lacking is a level of awareness of how to get what you want. And awareness is just another word for frequency. So you're not on the frequency. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have the awareness of how to get what you want. What's awareness? Awareness is logical. Do you understand? When you're aware of something, you know how it works. That's logic. But oftentimes, you need to use a little imagination, a little delusion to eventually get to that level of awareness where you have what you desire. So now that you understand that, let's get back to neuroticism. I didn't forget. So this is very interesting. Studies show that people who are higher in neuroticism, which means they feel negative emotions more intensely, are actually more likely to take action when they focus on what they don't want rather than what they do want. You're likely high in trait openness. That's why you're even into this content. But the way manifestation or reality creation is typically taught literally doesn't work for your unique mind, especially if you're high in neuroticism.
Like me.
Yes, my wife is in the 80th percentile of neuroticism. I'm in the 20th percentile, so I'm not very neurotic, but I still utilize some of these concepts and principles which I'm going to teach you. Now, understanding neuroticism and the other psychological profiles, this is why when I work with my members of the Next Realm, I find out their psychology profile so I can help them in a way that's unique to them. If you're highly disagreeable, for instance, like me, I know how to craft things through psychology and universal law to help you earn more money. And also, if you're higher in neuroticism, I can help you as well. Just because your mind is catered to a different way of thinking doesn't mean you can't change your reality. You just have to change it differently than the other person. So if you want to build a purpose-based business and break into the top 1% of earners and greater, link is in the description below for the Next Realm. Now, let's learn the power of your dark side. Let me tell you a quick story. There was once a kid who was laughed at, he was doubted, told he'd never amount to anything. As he got older, every time someone told him he wasn't good enough, he remembered it. He didn't suppress it. He wrote it down, even if he just wrote it down in his mind. He let it burn inside of him until he became one of the most dominant forces the world has ever seen. That man was Michael Jordan. He didn't positively think his way into success. He weaponized every negative emotion and transmuted it into relentless action. If you watch The Last Dance, you will see all of the shadow fuel, all of the negative emotion that Jordan used to become the greatest basketball player of all time. He has 6 championships and he did it through shadow fuel. Now, psychologists call this defensive pessimism. It comes from a study done by Julie Norum, and you can read her book, The Positive Power of Negative Thinking. And what it found is that certain people actually perform better when they focus on avoiding failure instead of visualizing success. So last year I was on a podcast with a friend of mine, his name's Matt, and he's a very successful entrepreneur. And in our conversation, we talk about this. We talk about knowing what you don't want. And he's very successful when it comes to money. And he thought deeply about what he didn't want. Success leaves clues. Pay attention. So there's also something called Yerkes-Dodson law, which says that stress isn't always bad. There's actually an optimal level of stress that makes you perform at your highest level. This is called eustress. It is actually positive stress. And most people have de-stress, which is stress that messes up your life, okay? How do you get eustress instead of de-stress, Seth? That's cool, no, man. You're gonna learn. Just keep taking your notes. You need to know your values. Okay, when you live by your highest values, the stress of carrying out your purpose, your mission, and your vision, they're welcomed. So in order to discover your top values, get the Value Finder tool in the description below. It is free.
And life-changing.
Yes, indeed. Getting a lot of messages about the Value Finder, a lot of positive messages. So shout out to y'all for using it. It is incredibly useful. And when you know your purpose, your mission, and your vision, you utilize that to create a business that allows you to live the life that you want, get the income you want, achieve the financial independence that you want, live the life of abundance that you deserve. It all comes from purpose. It all comes from values, even if you are driven by negative fuel. So if we know that some people are more driven by what they don't want, this means that if you have a natural tendency to worry, if you feel frustration, or if you're scared of being broke, you can use it as fuel. I did this, okay? I got to a point in my life a couple of years ago where I was fed up. I was done with it. I had been broke for my entire life and I was over it. I was like, I am not meant to live this way. And I got angry and I started changing my life. I used that anger as fuel to propel me to certain things. And it worked. I used frustration and propelled me to certain things. These are not a problem. These are only problematic based on your perception of them, because you watched all of these manifestation people and all these spiritual people that told you to only think positive, but you've positively thought yourself into poverty. Sometimes you need to use the dark side. It's there for a reason. Nothing comes into existence without purpose. The all is the perfect synthesis of light and dark. So if you're going to move more like the all, which will allow you to manifest quicker and at will, you need to combine both. Now here's the twist. Shadow fuel alone isn't enough, because if you only run on negative emotions, you're going to burn out, like I said. And that's where the Hermetic principles come in again. Like I mentioned before, the principle of polarity. It states that everything has two sides: light, dark, positive, negative, pain, and pleasure. Now, instead of trying to reject one side, which is what most people do, the true alchemist, the true master of reality, learns how to use polarity. This means using your anger, your frustration, your fear to take action, but you also have to balance it with purpose, mission, and a clear vision so you don't self-destruct. Now, Seth, what do I practically do to make this work? Because I know some of you are in the audience here and you're disagreeable like me. You want to know how things work. You want proof for things. How does this work? All this knowledge is all nice, but I'm skeptical. What do I do? I get it. I'm disagreeable. And I'll say this, I have a very streamlined tool in the next realm to help you do the process I'm about to guide you through in a very, very powerful, very, very streamlined, very, very simple way. But here we go. Firstly, you need to name your shadow fuel. So I want you to identify what's driving you in the dark. Is it the fear of staying broke, the anger of being overlooked, the pain of being underestimated? Write it down. And then what you're going to do is step 2. You're going to transmute the energy. You take that energy, you attach it to an action. If you're angry about being broke, you use that as a fire to create and sell your first offer, for instance. If you're frustrated with watching others win, let it drive you to put in the work, not just scroll social media looking for the next person who tells you, if you do this, it manifests in 24 hours. The reason you're doing that is because you're desperate and you're in survival mode based upon things that have never worked, because it doesn't work for your unique psychology. It'll work for somebody else who has a different psychological profile than you. You might be higher in neuroticism. You might be less open to certain things. It's not going to work for you the same way. So you need to have as many tools in the toolkit as you can to change your reality. Also, if you watch my Your Emotions Are Money in Disguise video, I talk about these emotions and the scale of them and how they operate. And I talk about alchemizing them, which is basically transmutation. Any emotion you have is fuel. Emotions are energy in motion. And what happens with most people, especially when it comes to negative emotions, is you let these emotions dance in your head. They are energy. They move. They operate. They do things. If you just let them live in your head, then you get problems. You get extreme irritability. You get depression. You get mental problems. You need to use them to do something. You are very lucky that you are a human with emotions, because emotions are infinite fuel. Finally, step 3, you need to balance the energy. You use the principle of rhythm to balance the pendulum between these emotions of negative and positive. After you use the dark to move forward, You use your purpose, your mission, your vision, and gratitude to stabilize yourself. And this is how you avoid burnout. You need a little hell to run away from and a little heaven to run towards. So if you want to go deeper into this stuff, if you want a proven system that combines hermetic wisdom and real-world business strategies to help you build wealth and freedom, then I invite you to join the next realm. Inside, we don't just talk about stuff, we actually take action. Every week we refine our offers, we master sales, we unlock deeper levels of abundance together. So whether you're ready to discover your values or take things to the next level, check the links below and get started today. And that's that for today. From Wifey and I, peace.
Still put up the imaginary.
Yeah, still put up the peace sign and they can't see you. I'm telling you, they feel the peace.
They feel it?
They feel the peace, my love. Yes, they do.